No.
Open it. How do you guys think that biographies went overall? Now that we're like wrapping it up.
Good.
So good.
Definitely.
I like the engagement level of the students.
Yeah.
Yes, and I feel like because we did synthesis before this, it was like great to have them move into this. Like I feel like the flow of everything this year went really nice to like build them up to be able to do this.
Yeah. I feel like too, the choice, once they got past like the first person we did together, having them amped up about picking somebody that they were interested in to synthesize helped a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it was valuable that you had the list of people that we already had cleared as somebody that contributed to the United States, because that was the standard that we were trying to meet, rather than in the past when we used to do this, we typically had a list so that they were like safe options, you know, that wasn't somebody that hadn't died yet, that possibly, you know, they called it the Bill Cosby effect.
Yeah.
To have a scandal open up, you know, we didn't need kids wandering into Tiger Woods territory, but having them choose people that were already contributors to the United States was really awesome.
True.
And I like the cultural like variety too for our population of students. Like we looked at people of, you know, various backgrounds. I liked that because they felt seen probably during that.
Yeah, good point.
Whereas everybody able to give the final assessment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the mine.
We can put it in now.
What's up?
I know, I'm excited. I had a couple kids move up
These
to
are
fours.
just mine.
Can I look at your lower ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe decide if they're 1, 2, or 2, 3.
Okay.
Oh,
Let me see.
they're on a one.
Yesterday's the one.
What was our
Benjamin
above,
They can tell
light
you.
bulb.
Yeah.
I know.
It's
Not
not
necessary.
above target
Yeah.
means learner is able to research 2 or more pieces of text. So if it was a 4, they had to have a third source.
Or they could have like
No, they could have
inferred.
inferred
Yeah.
something,
Okay.
or had background information.
And like I was talking with Becky this morning, like Azad on this one, he really didn't, like it was very bare, but like overall, he's been showing 4 throughout the whole like, unit, so I'm gonna put him as a 4. Because like this assessment is important, but also like it's just one assessment.
Yeah, if
where
you
he's
looked
had
at the
a lot.
quantity that he was able to produce accurately and thoroughly.
Yes. I'm excited for them to do this with animals. Cause I feel like the vocabulary is so much.
And it would be so fun too, like, cause they're already confident in it, like,
Yes.
looking at how much they grew, I'm excited to see our final numbers here. This one shocks me.
Yeah.
Because it's so for them.
Yeah.
And it's, you know.
Has he done
I
better
would give
in
him a
class?
2, 3, right, because he has done better in all of them.
Why do you think he did so poorly? Was it like the subject matter?
He was literally just, he wrote
He's just
several
good like
words
that,
down, but
like
he
for the last year.
copied a couple sentences for his answer. Like he copied the first sentence of the first paragraph and one of the sentences in the second paragraph. But had different words in his box.
Do you think I can put the one on a 3? He didn't do his best work on this, but like when we did it in the room, he did it too.
He was working fully independently out of 3.
Like he was a leader in the United States.
But
But she doesn't tell us why.
She doesn't know what that
Are
means.
we doing a certain number of sentences? Like one sentence isn't probably a paragraph,
Right.
No. And
so
it's
that
not.
shouldn't
And it
be.
doesn't answer all the
Right.
questions.
It doesn't.
Right.
So
Or
what would
even
you say
think-
that is?
1, 2.
Yeah. I think even like if it didn't answer all the questions, as long as like
I would
also
say
like
if it's
are
one
they
sentence
synthesized?
and it was a good sentence, then you could potentially maybe be a 2, 3 because you're starting to answer the questions.
Yeah.
But why? What do you think?
Can you give us an example?
I was looking at that.
Do you wanna read his to us?
I think Zach would be a 1, 2. What?
Okay, I was like, do we wanna read it, or you think it's, he only had 1 sentence?
He had, yeah, it said he invented lightning bolts.
I I would.
So he started a sentence with a pronoun
Is this a 4?
and,
Overall, when you were doing this, was he able to?
no,
No,
Oh, okay.
absolutely not.
No.
Okay.
Fully and like,
Cass the same way, fully needed someone with them.
I would say a 3.
Okay.
I don't know if I could give Chase a 3.
My struggle with hers is it's like it
I
feels
would
almost
give
like
Chase
it's
a 3. Just because
like she's
I
taking
saw the
information from
lack
both, but
of
she's not
effort.
answering
Yeah,
like
I
one
did
given
all of
question
the
with.
work.
I think that's okay.
You know,
Because she's
right.
taking-
But so I think that's why I think
Yeah.
3 versus 4, if she was
Yeah.
able to really
It's like, no,
pull
it's
things from both
like-
into, you know, one of the given
Oh,
questions.
she a
Yes.
3 too.
I think she was closer to a 4. When she was like visually talking it out with me, like you could tell that she was pulling a
Merlin,
lot
this was
from
above target.
the
Thanks,
background.
Mom.
and,
Girl.
That's
I know.
amazing.
Even like whole group lunch.
But she was the one who started at one of our tables, so like, you don't need to be here.
Yes.
Because,
And so then that last,
because there
Did you
was
give her the
freedom for
choice?
all.
Yes.
To sit at your table, or did you pull her right away?
it was more who thinks that they need help.
Okay.
And then she showed that she had done really well, and then kind of this next one, you don't need to. And then independently, again, she was able to do this. But her proximity to us is really good, like she literally faces my table, at her table, so if she like looks up, you can just encourage her, but that's amazing. She's made really good growth.
Think about the agency that you're building too.
Yep.
Giving them that, first of all, the choice to say, yes, I still need help with this, come sit by a teacher. But then when you push her to do her own work,
Mhm.
and then she sees what she can do.
Yeah,
And Olivia was starting to do that a little bit too, like we had pulled groups based on what they needed
Mm-hmm.
to each of our tables.
so Donna and Paisley for
And
sure, the
then,
two,
as we went,
Musa and Daniel.
started to try and push
Not
kids
sure
to
if we
more
put that.
independence each time. And,
Musab and Daniel.
These are the ones that's like. we
Dalen
really
asked me
want
the
her
other
to.
day, do I work better at your table or at my spot? And I said,
I think
well, the
two.
work that you're doing at your table spot right now shows me that you can do it either way, but I think it's great that you can do it on your own.
Laura was,
3.
yeah.
He's been so proud. I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
Can you guys see my typing?
Can I see
No,
Isha's?
sure can.
Actually,
Which typing?
I can see yours.
I can
Oh,
see
she
it.
can?
Mhm.
Oh, now it popped up.
Can I see Isha's?
Yes.
I'm excited to see what she did.
What? Each is a 3?
Yeah, girl.
Oh my, you guys are just killing it.
Do you think I should have Cartland assessment on here?
Well, he doesn't receive core instruction with.
No.
I don't put Romeo.
We
with-
put him on there last time, so that's why I put him on here. But, you know, down from a 2-3 to a 1-2.
Just leave him, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, cause you can always highlight it to show that he has a disability, like, just for your own.
So
And
with
being even
this,
in the 1-2.
I read
like,
sentence by
Yeah.
sentence and I asked her to underline
Mhm.
what matched one of our questions.
Yeah,
And then she was able to take that.
Nice.
and make her sentence.
Who is this you're talking about, Isha?
You guys, she reads at a level D.
Did you put the numbers in the box? The 2-3 box? The total? I mean,
I put
I
2,
just
3,
can't see
that's put 4 in parentheses,
okay,
yes.
perfect.
Do you want me to add up the
I'm
numbers?
just seeing like, by Erica is where it's
Yeah,
not
that's
really.
where it stops on hers too.
Excel, pop back in and go back in.
I love that
Changes you made
Carlos
may not be
made it to a 4.
He's come so far this year,
Yeah.
like so far, even like his behavior from the start of the
Yeah.
year to now.
Why does yours keep doing that?
I don't know.
I know it's,
Just step.
what name is after Elena?
Erica, and then she has a
Oh.
bunch after that.
Yeah, we have 15
Oh,
total.
and yours is stalled at Erica too?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so is mine.
Is yours up to date?
Yeah, no, I don't see hers on mine.
Here, can I update, tell me Erica, who's after Erica?
Nasro,
Okay.
Luckman,
Okay.
Mia, Harrison, Austin, Brady, Laura.
And now it's
Finished
coming
15.
right away.
It is coming
In real time.
Yeah.
from her.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can, even if it doesn't save yours, say okay.
Okay, I'm gonna put in numbers, is that alright?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
Oh,
how
good
some
option.
of your changes may not be saved,
Okay.
yeah.
And we have,
Freehop, are you okay if I take notes at the end when you're talking about next steps and stuff?
You don't ever have to ask if you can take notes, Becky, you just go and take the
Do
notes.
it.
so it looks like 6, we have 9 in 1, 2. Oh, you're doing it at the same time, sorry.
No, that's fine, but I put your
Okay.
number in, thanks. 9 plus 14 plus 51 plus 8. That's not right. 9 plus 14. 82 kids. Okay. 51 divided by 82. 62%.
Nice,
And that
you
doesn't
guys.
include now
Fours.
And the
my
fours
fours.
too.
8 divided by 62 is 13.
Okay, so if you add,
So our midway
It was
checkpoint was
59.
56%. We had 56% of kids in green or blue at our last
So
checkpoint.
that
Now we're at
is
75.
75.
What?
That's awesome.
You
Good work, you
guys.
guys.
That's awesome.
And what was your first check even? Let's see.
54.
Oh, sorry.
Because
I thought
between the
there was
first and
more
second
before
one,
that.
we didn't really see.
We didn't
much.
There was
much
that
difference.
much growth, yep.
And by the end,
Ashley, yours is looking weird to me with
I
the
know.
students' names in there.
I just switched from you. That's okay. I'll fix it.
Okay. Wow, that's fantastic, you guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
really good growth.
awesome.
and then if you look at our 2-3 column, 12% is just right there.
Mm-hmm.
They're close.
So
Mhm.
close.
So we would have bet probably, we beat that 80% goal.
Yeah.
If we spend another month on it, which
Mm-hmm.
we are.
You're
going
coming
to
to
do.
it, yeah.
Mhm.
So this can
That's
be
exciting.
your pre-assessment data for your animals
Absolutely.
one.
Save Ashley a couple of hours on the weekend.
Well, and I
Yeah,
think-
but I would like to do an animal one.
Do it.
Yeah. We're not gonna, they're different things. In my head, I was like, that does not work for me. We have to do an animal one.
Okay,
Yes, and it does not, I'll make it regardless.
okay.
So you guys could all use it, or just me.
I don't
But
want
she's
it.
making it
But
anyway.
I'm
either
going to
one
make it
or all.
regardless.
Yeah.
We can't just do one.
Yes,
She probably already has it made.
I have an idea, but I haven't made it yet. Don't worry.
Okay. We have some guiding questions to follow with. Where am I seeing that?
This time around, I was just thinking that we could do, like in the bottom where we fill in our boxes, and then we can talk about like ways that we wanna incorporate it during small group, or like moving into animals, like how we're gonna bounce into it. Like this morning I was talking with Becky, and usually when we start a new topic for ELA, we are jumping in and having like, I think aloud, but this time around, I think with the great growth that we've seen over this time and like how much synthesis they've done over this year, I think it would be okay to do a think together compared to a think aloud.
And just show the differences between when you're looking at people versus when you're looking at animals.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
the topics are gonna be different.
Yeah, and this time around, we only have 3 weeks, and I would love for them to be able to do like a fun project.
They
I think
want
that's-
to as
Absolutely,
well.
yes.
They're
Yes.
asking for it.
I know.
Yes.
And they're ready for that independence too.
Yes, and so I was thinking like, using this data to help us like guide that thing together and thinking like, if one co-teacher is teaching this, should that lower group be with the other teacher at the same, like, so they have a little bit more of that guided instruction? Or like looking into it, when they start to work more independent, we can use the pre-assessment that we have for animals, but also using this, cause we'll know certain habits that they had moving forward. So like, even on this pre-assessment that we take for animals, we'll see possibly something different because it's something new, and often like kids will be like, it's new, I don't know how to do it, but we can use both of them to like help guide.
And like having that side by side, so you can see where they, needed it on both, or if it was just because it was new.
Yeah.
So are you thinking kind of like parallel teaching? So like the co-teacher, interventionist teacher will take a small group right away, and we would start working with
Like doing the animals in small groups.
like our
We
ones,
could.
twos
We could,
right away when you're with the rest of the group.
That way it's right in front of them. And any
And we're
questions
not
they have, you
wasting
can
any
just,
time.
yeah,
and
that's
you can
what,
encourage that conversation too when you're having your things together, your attorney talks and things,
Yeah.
where they might be hesitant to speak out, that gives them that opportunity.
Lori and I have done that a couple times this year, and I think that it really helps them, like, even just like, because a lot of it could just be like vocabulary wise, like they're stuck on that word that they don't understand, but if they have that co-teacher there to like explain it to them, then they don't have to feel nervous to raise their hand or like just re-explain it. And a lot of times, like, at least for me, like in this group, our 1s and 2s, these are just a little bit of my like slower processors, so like that allows them to like kind of work at their own pace, but then still like participate. Because like
Right.
even her group will still raise their hand, but maybe they didn't have everything written down, but they don't feel rushed because of the fact that like Lori's there to help them.
So when those guys do their final project, are you thinking of that they will all do the same animal as well?
I don't think so. I think
They could still
at the
do
end
their
they'd be able to pick it. And I think you could decide as a teacher, like, do you want them to do it individual or like those 1s and 2s, like I would feel comfortable having them do a partner one. Compared to doing it independent, because that adds a whole nother thing. Like you have to be independent enough to do the packet and also create the project. That's a lot.
To be able to do
Is
that.
the final project gonna be our final thing that we collect from them?
I don't.
No,
Okay,
we'll do
'cause-
like an
so then we
assessment.
could still do partners though
Yes.
anyway, 'cause it would,
Yeah.
Do we want to open up options for other apps or things for this project? I mean, I might be getting ahead of myself, but some of the fun things, like the green screen is really fun.
The only thing is this the last thing we do in ELA?
Yes, so
So
that's a thing.
iPads potentially,
Good call.
Yes.
The last Friday of May.
Is that what they decided?
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 17th.
Yeah, so it's like we have 4 days afterwards where you won't have iPads.
Ooh, I don't know. But maybe you could see how your kids are doing, and maybe if you have like kids that are faster, they could do one and then they could share it with the class. But then they might get
Put it on Seesaw.
yeah. I feel like that's hard because you're gonna have like we do stuff a little bit differently that last week,
right.
but there is time where like the first 2 days
Yeah,
at least
would
we're
be great
doing
for
They'll
presentation.
present.
yes.
So maybe we think about,
But if they've shared it to us on our,
Yes.
they could share it with us and then they could present, because we keep our iPad, right?
Yeah.
So,
I feel like you have to decide like as you're going to see how fast your class is.
yeah.
Because like for biography wise, like really like my class wouldn't, if it was biographies, none of my kids would have been able to do it that way.
Yeah, because they have to get the writing done first.
Yes.
Yeah.
and then if they're doing something other than a keynote, they probably need to come up with like a script of what they're gonna say.
Yes.
So we could maybe think posters, brochures.
Yeah.
And do we want them to keep all of their organizers, so then it doesn't necessarily have to be the last one they did, it could be any of them that they
Yeah,
did in the
that's
most?
a good
Yeah.
idea.
Cause I know we've been sending them home, but that way they could kind of have like their little portfolio of the things they've done and they can choose one.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
I kept all of mine and like sent them home at the end.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cause then it was like someone were like, oh my gosh, Mr. F, I researched 4 people.
Yeah.
And like they
Yeah.
just feel like,
Or even seeing the difference is cool
From
of
those-
how they did
yeah.
the first one versus the last.
I like seeing them connect all the people.
Uh-huh.
They'd be like, oh, this person was alive the same time. Or they'd be like,
this one was
connect to
dead
time.
way
They're
before
like,
this one.
or I'd
Yeah.
be like, they'd be like, oh, they died in 2005. I'm like, yep, I was in kindergarten. What? They're really old. And I was like, no.
They asked me that day you said you were in kindergarten,
Yeah.
they're like, how old were you? I was like, I was 20.
They were also
Whoa.
like, they liked seeing too, like, Martin Luther King was alive at the same time as Rosa Parks. Like, these
Well, that's
people
how you're,
existed
like,
together.
Helping them make those
Yeah.
connections, that background building.
No, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's good.
So I'm thinking about I know Ashley mentioned, but I'm thinking about our kids who are a 1 or a 2 here. Like, what do you think held them back from hitting proficient in this?
One thing that I was working on with my group that was a 1 and 2, starting to think about what their focus should be, was creating your own sentences and not copying from the text. And one thing I was starting to do with some of the learners who are at my table is having them like read the text and then don't look at the text. Think about what you just read and look at me and I'll say, what was their job? And they have to tell me. Like speaking out the answers first.
Yep.
Instead of using these words,
Cause
they
it's so
have
easy
to
to
make
use
their
the
own
same
words.
wording.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
even saying like, why are they well known? Why is Neil Armstrong well known? Like you can answer that without having to read it.
Right.
So use that language to write your sentences.
I like that.
So verbalizing it.
I don't know if this is taking them a step back, but could you do it in the sense, because I have students that are like that, and it makes me think of when we had Mark in our classroom, and his sentence structure was hard. He also had other things going on, but I was like, he said it out loud to his iPad, and so
Yeah,
it tracked his
typed it.
thinking, and then afterwards,
Then we went
they
back.
could go
and
back
back
and
and
look
type.
and be like, does this make
We
sense?
cleaned
Like,
up the sentence.
because I feel like that would help a lot of like our Corellis and our Cammys, because I think they know what they're, like, Corelli actually did a fantastic job here, but like Cammy, like, she knows what she's doing, I think she just lacks that confidence piece when it comes to writing
Well,
it.
and the syntactic part of English for
Yeah.
an EL learner is really difficult.
Mhm.
So figuring out, if they have those keywords and like the bulk of the information, and they're able to record it on, or talk to text or whatever it's called, and then like Mark did, go back and help them clean up the sentence. That's a really powerful tool, I think.
Yeah. I
That's
don't know if
something
it
they can
was,
take with them too.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, could we do that, or is that taking them, like, because truly, should they be learning how to do? But so, I don't feel like that's what this is.
Also, your 1s and 2s, like, that'll probably be something they will use their whole life
Yeah.
as an accommodation for them, because a lot of these are some of your sped kids, so I think that's fine for them to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's taking a step back at all. I think
Yeah.
that's adding a rung to the ladder for them, something that
That's
they
what they
can
need.
Utilize.
Yeah.
step up.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Because they'll do that enough, and then it will become something that's a little bit easier for them. Probably never super easy, but like, it will become more natural the more practice they get correctly. Because if we continue to just have them copy the sentence or practice it incorrectly, that's not moving them forward, that's just
Yeah.
keeping them where they're at, so.
We'll have to decipher like how to go about that, because right now we're having them pull those keywords. Most of our students are pulling those keywords and then typing that. Are we having them just view it as a question, like, as they go, and then are we having them speak into it and then retype it into a new paragraph? Do you know what I
Or
mean?
edit.
My
Or
son's
just
accommodation
edit,
right now is to speak it into an iPad, listen to it, and then type it.
Okay. Do they does
Or
he
write
do
it.
it on the same, like, page?
I don't think so. I think that she maybe has something open for him to speak into, and then he's listening to that, because in second, they're just writing it out. But I think it's good for them to hear their voice
Yes.
too with that, so.
I'm
Oh,
trying to
that's
like,
tricky,
instead
you know
of
what I
doing
mean?
speech to text,
Yes.
it's literally just a recording of your voice.
Like memos?
That's what, but I was thinking, like, for Mark, what we did was we had him speak
Speech to
into his
text,
iPad,
yeah.
which is great, and I think that would help him. The only part is I'm tricking is like, would that mean that they're speaking their paragraph, or they answer, like, how are they gonna switch it from
I
that
don't think
to
it
that?
really matters. I think if they dictate their paragraph,
Yes,
it's still their thoughts getting onto the page,
yes,
and then they'll be responsible with help to start to edit it, proofread it, so that it fits the rules of the language.
But right, I think the
Yeah.
first step's probably just getting it.
yes.
Okay.
So
Right,
it's
teacher.
So are we teaching them, like, I'm thinking about when you're teaching them how to do it, are we gonna teach them, okay, you're on the career and accomplishments place, before you like type or speak your text, you need to look at the first question. What is their occupation? And then I want you to practice saying it out loud before you speak it, and then it would say, Benjamin Franklin's occupation was that he was a printer, period.
Wait, but you said before you even read anything.
Well, yes,
Before you type anything.
before you type
Oh.
it.
But like before you say
Yes.
it, for that, like.
So
Practice
after you
before you-
pull
Practice it.
keywords,
Before you record it.
and then you do the practice, and then you do
Yes.
So that's like the part where you had your students say.
Yes.
Say it to me. It's like
Yeah.
the paraphrase strategy when we're doing small groups.
Yeah, there were a few of actually students that we did that for, they just spoke it to us and we just scribed it
Yeah.
on the paper
Yeah.
for them, so.
And then after they did that, would you have them pause, so like it's not reading them, and then you would have them answer the next question? So it'd basically be them following the questions?
You could definitely do that.
Yeah, cause
I
then
think
they
that's-
wouldn't have to, like, retype it up somewhere. It would already be following the direction of
Yeah.
the questions.
And so I'm thinking then
And our
on
questions are
their,
gonna be a little bit different. than
Yes.
Yeah.
normals, but-
Yep.
on their notes, then they can number the things.
Mhm.
So if the first question is, what does a lion eat? Then they would go into their synthesis notes
Keywords.
and they would put like a 1 next to the question, and then they'd go and put a 1 next to each of their keywords, so
That's a
that
great scaffold for
then
sure.
they could bulk that chunk
This
that
is-
Yeah,
information
so
up.
we'll have to do that during Think Together, make
Yes.
sure to label where you're putting them.
This
what
one I'm
sentence.
making me think like, if we wanted to scaffold it more for those students down below, we could make an organizer that has the questions in each box, so like, then they have to go in and fill in the answer for that part. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would have, like, the animal thing, and then the next part would be, like, epic, row, and then it could say,
You could even
The
number
animal
1, 2, 3,
eats,
4 down the side
and
of
then
each
they
box.
could fill it in. Cause like, I'm thinking about Martine and Brilliant, they could find and
Yeah.
fill in that part that says,
Yeah.
the animal eats,
Mhm.
and they could fill in blank. Then they would move into the next part, the animal lives,
Mhm.
blank, and then that way, when they are reading it, they just have to go bump, bump,
Yeah,
bump,
And
so
bump.
you're
that's
giving
just
them
for
that-
some
yeah.
of them.
Yes,
Yeah,
but for
for
some of
like-
them,
Yeah, that's just like your ones.
yes,
Jump to.
Some of the
your
kids at
very
the
lowest
table with
ones.
the
Yeah.
cooperative
Yes.
teachers, yeah.
And I've got those pink mats too, that,
could even help like those,
yeah,
those later twos that are almost to a 3.
that have all the guiding questions on them already. And so that's one side of it, you know, I don't know, I did talk about simplifying these work maps a little bit because it's kind of a lot. But I also have the, structure of what the paragraph looks like mapped out nicely as well. Here, I'll show you, I'm just pulling it up.
I also think like even labeling 1, 2, 3, 4, not necessarily have the boxes laid out, but like could help the threes
Yeah,
too, just
like I think that would help.
organize
That
their
would be a
thoughts.
good
Like
first step.
chunking your information, like, okay, all the things they eat, you put in one
Yes.
sentence,
Yes.
so
Right.
like, then you know where all your words are for your sentence.
Yes, or even like if you cut, like you know that eating goes with like a star or a color, like you could
Mhm.
circle it in
Yeah.
yellow or
Right.
green.
So I've got, writing a synthesis paper, and it says the topic sentence, it introduces the topic of your paper. So the topic sentence introduces your animal to your reader.
We're not doing that anymore, right, so don't we just do a heading?
And I do have that, you're right, I have that, in the biography format, I can change it so
No,
that it
that's okay.
matches. I liked this because it gave them ideas like on how to introduce the thing, but you're right, we aren't using the paragraph format. Let me pull up the other.
No, we do paragraph format, just not a topic sentence.
We use a heading and a
Yeah.
paragraph,
Yeah.
not paragraph format, like
Oh,
topic
yeah,
sentence, the details conclusion. Is, yeah, we're saying the same thing.
So you guys have talked a lot about your ones and twos, but what are things that you want to keep hitting, like to reinforce some more with your threes and your twos, almost threes?
I think our 3's like still coordinate like with the color or like the numbering.
For my threes, I have a few, like some of my boys, like they're very capable of it, but sometimes I feel like they like to do like the bare minimum. Where my girls had like
Yeah.
huge paragraphs and they made sure every little like, oh, they were a lawyer, then he was a congressman, then he was a president. Where the boys love to be, they were the president, you know, like go to that.
Yeah.
So I want for some of mine just to like make sure all the details included, not just.
Well, it might be nice for
Some
you
of
to
it.
show those 2 types up on the board, like which would you be more interested in
Right.
reading, and which one teaches you more, just to kind of prove the point, you're not pointing anybody out, but like,
Yeah.
there's a reason we include more information, because it makes it more interesting, we can learn more, like.
Right.
One thing I was thinking too, for the threes that are almost 4s. Obviously, we've taught how to inference while you're reading, but I don't know about you guys, but like I've never taught them how to add inferences to your writing. Some of them do it naturally without even thinking, but maybe explicitly showing them, like, if I know that they only eat leaves, grass, and whatever, I can add in that then I know they're an herbivore. Like that type of thing, if they know that word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, say,
Right.
this means they're a blah blah blah, because that's an inference and it's correct.
Yeah, that background
So-
information.
Yeah, like just kind of doing a better job of teaching them how to add an inference into writing and not always having to use the text only.
That would be a good thing to
That's
go
a
into
good-
like small groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like analyzing the information that you've pulled, what do all of these things tell you?
Yeah.
This tells you something
Right.
specific, make your generalization, and then give the information that you learned.
And like, what else does that tell you without explicitly telling you? What else
Yeah.
does that make you know? Yeah.
I think that's good too, cause like the ones and twos make it confused, you know, you get
Yeah.
kinda confused
Yes.
and you're like, where did you get that information
Yes.
from?
Cause they're very literal, they're taking it exactly from the text and not going beyond, so
Yeah.
that's not, introduce that when they make them feel like they have to do that.
Right.
But yeah, I think for sure a small group
Yes.
for one of the teachers to have a, a couple day mini lesson to just
Mm-hmm.
introduce it and practice it and then see what they can do
Yeah.
with different groups of text. Cool. Okay.
What was the other part of your question you asked?
Just like thinking about your think alouds, like what are other things that you wanna make sure you hit with your kids that are already 3s or pushing into 4s, or your kids that are almost 3s, they're at 2s?
I think continuing to show them to use your question as part of your answer. It's the easiest way to take the language of the question and make sure you're actually answering what they're asking for.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to see that on testing for the rest of their lives. So just like what we're doing a lot, and we're going to be doing it in the fictional narrative, that you have to take the information that's given to you. That should always be included, and then what more do you have? I think that will be a nice transition for them too, because then they'll practice that for the next few weeks in writing, and then you can relate that writing back to the animals.
I noticed a lot of kids are starting sentences with pronouns, which is I know is a small thing, but the bulk of our students, not the bulk, but a large portion are EL learners, and so them using pronouns is great, but I think we should probably look at our 1s and 2s, even maybe our 2, 3s, and think about specific sort of language objectives for them when they're working with us in that small group. So explaining how, yes, pronouns are great to use, but if you start your paragraph with she, we probably don't know who you're talking about, or it. And I think that goes right along with using the question in your answer as well. And I'm looking at the WADA standards while I'm doing this, because that is one of the language functions and features that's listed, is using those pronouns to refer back to the topic. And it goes along with the cohesion to reference ideas and people and things across text. So keeping them on that topic, and also, the verbs that we use in this kind of writing is going to be different than the verbs we use when we're describing people. So keeping an eye about, and what I'm trying to say, keeping that in your mind as well. Like when we were describing people, we talked about where they got an education, what they did for a job, but animals don't have those things. So we talk about the way that they move, the way that they hunt, that they're nocturnal. So there's a completely new set of vocabulary concepts that we have to be aware that might be unknown at this point too. Our 3s and 4s aren't going to have any trouble with that. But looking at the lower level kids.
Do you know what I did?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I just X'd out of mine because mine wasn't syncing. So let me see if mine I can get mine too.
Do you need something, Lauren?
Mine's just not syncing, so I know my information isn't going in there.
It's really bizarre.
And then I tried, because I used like
It's showing
the
up on
web.
mine.
It is showing up that I did this?
Yep.
Oh, good. All of it? Like both boxes?
Both boxes are,
Okay, fabulous. I used the web version, but then I went to check if it made a difference on the app, and it did.
Okay, when do you start your animal unit again?
Animals is after.
3 weeks from now.
Yeah, first
3
week in May.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking
I
about
think
that
it's
pronoun,
in
yes,
right now.
totally
Yeah,
not
In the narratives that
Like
we're
the
gonna
2
do
days.
too.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
gonna be
the
able to talk a
29th
lot
and
about
30th
that.
of April. Yeah.
But also
Continue to build that.
Okay, so we can kind of revisit like this awesome list you guys came up with, like in that planning right before you start.
Perfect. Sweet.
And then once we do our pre-assessment, we'll have a really good idea of where to start with groups.
Yep.
And what we can look at to push the 3s and 4s already. What they can do with animals.
Oh, they're gonna be so excited to
Oh,
come
yeah.
back to it and have it be animals.